Hi, I'm Jeff with Ovation, and in this video we're going to talk about the interview feature, how to set it up, how to start it, and how to review it. So when you launch the Ovation software and you sign in, you're going to see the main menu like this. And on the left-hand side, you can choose from one of three modes. In this case, we're going to talk about the interview. So I'll click on that. And then Ovation's going to ask me, where do you want to have the interview? In this case, I'll go into the office venue. You can also go into the bedroom venue, and it's more of a panel interview where you have multiple people asking you questions during the interview. But in the office, it's just one person in front of you here. Now, when we come in, you're seated across from your interviewer. And if you want, you can shuffle that to someone else. You can shuffle through all of Ovation's audience members. In this case, I'll just pick her. I'm going to pull my menu back up, and on the left, you can see I'm in interview mode. I can start it now. I can set it up. And then on the right-hand side is the quick setup. So I'm going to go actually into the full setup so we can see all of the options here. And as we go down this list here, the first one is my role in this interview. So you can apply for a job and practice interviewing to get that job, or you can be on the other side of the table. You can be the interviewer, and you would be interviewing an AI applicant for the same job that you were just applying for. And this is a fantastic way to prepare. You can take one side of the table, try to answer the questions, and go through a full interview, and then put the other shoes on, get on the other side of the table, and then see how the AI applicant would answer the same questions that you asked. I would encourage you to try both. Now, the next setting is the type of interview. There's three types. You can have a general interview, a technical interview, and a behavioral interview. You can choose the interviewer's attitude. This ranges from friendly to harsh and even humorous if you'd like. And this is going to significantly affect how they treat you during the interview, what they think of your answers to the questions, and so forth. And so that's just another great way to practice in advance, not knowing what type of interview you're going to be facing, what type of interviewer you're going to be facing, and what their personality is like. Next is the question difficulty. Easy is going to be very simple questions, just to kind of establish your knowledge of the industry and the job title that you're applying for. And the hard question difficulty is going to be multi-part questions where you're going to have to answer with data about previous roles or your experience on the topic. And the interviewer might even push you further. When you come up with an answer, they may not be satisfied, and they'll ask you to dig deeper and give them more information. So then you're going to set your name. In this case, I will set my name as Jeff, and my job title. Let's say I'm going to apply as a software developer, and let's call that a VR software developer. The company name, I'll just apply to Ovation. Now, this is an interesting point. ChatGPT, the AI we use in the background to drive all of this, probably doesn't know what Ovation is, or maybe knows a little bit from crawling the web or whatever and using that in its training data, but it doesn't have a ton of information about Ovation. And so we're going to help it by setting the industry here. And this is going to be educational VR software. And so now the AI is going to know that Ovation is in the educational VR software business, and I'm applying for the VR software developer job. So it's going to have enough information now to be able to formulate questions during an interview. The next setting here is, and just to expand on that, if I were to enter in a well-known company name, and I wouldn't necessarily need to provide the industry because the AI would already know what industry that company is in. And furthermore, depending on how well-known that company is, the AI might even know how that company typically structures interviews. So it's really flexible in that way. You can enter in a name that everyone's heard of and a lot of people apply for jobs at, or a company that the AI's never heard of. And in any case, it's going to be able to generate interview questions for you. And you can determine how many questions you're going to get during the interview. And then you can provide additional context. So this is your opportunity here to give the AI additional instructions about how you want this interview to proceed. You could, for example, provide resume information in this field. You could click on this and type in where you went to school, what degrees you got, any extracurricular activities that you were involved in. And you can also do other things. You can tell the AI to modify the interviewer's behavior at some point. You could say something along the lines of, during the interview, please ask me about my Photoshop skills. And the AI is going to see that in this additional context field. And during the interview, they're going to ask that question. Now that we've set it all up, I'm going to start the interview. And it's going to ask me if I want to speak first or listen first. And in this case, I will listen first.
Hello, Jeff. Thank you for coming in. Let's start by discussing your background. Can you tell me what drew you to VR development and what experiences have prepared you for a role at Ovation?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I first started developing virtual reality software in 2014, shortly after the first Oculus Rift development kit was released. And I've loved working with it ever since. And I've been a big fan of what Ovation's been able to do in the educational VR space. I think it's a very innovative company. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited to potentially get a role. Okay, so then I submit my response, and then
that sounds great.
I get a follow-up question.
With your experience, how do you ensure a VR experience is both engaging and educational? Could you share a specific project where you achieved this balance?
Yes. One of the things about VR is it can occasionally be, it's new technology to a lot of people. So the software itself has to be as intuitive as possible to not add friction to the process. And it simultaneously needs to lean into what makes virtual reality great, which is the immersiveness, feeling like you're in that space. And so those two things need to be balanced and focused on. And I've built software in the past that I think tries to walk that line nicely. Okay, so I won't go through the whole interview here, but that's what that looks like. I've now saved it after 2 questions. And you see the AI has provided a name, VR software developer at Ovation. And I have a full transcript of the interview. My username in this case is training. That's my response to it. The next question. So it's a full interview transcript. And then on the right-hand side is what we call our factor graph, which is a radar chart where the further out the blue is on the pentagon, the better your score is for that particular factor. Now, if you want to get more information about that, you can click on View Report and view the AI's justification for for what score you got for that factor. In this case, clarity. Your responses were generally clear, especially when discussing your background in VR development. However, there were moments where your explanations could be more concise and focused, particularly in the second question. Now, keep in mind that this is an interview that was saved after 2 questions, so there's not as much information to work with here. But nevertheless, you can see that the AI is looking into the transcript, my contributions to it, and then providing its feedback along these 5 factors, which can be customized. So just to show you what I did there, you can click this little cog here, this settings button, and you can customize the factors that the AI is evaluating you on after your interview. For example, if I didn't want to know about my clarity, I could click on that and I could change that to my conciseness. For example, I would replace clarity with conciseness. I'd come back here and then I would regenerate this feedback to provide me my conciseness score as well as the justification for it. So this is a very powerful way to continue generating feedback for different factors. And you can even create your own factors. So if you click on this again, click into conciseness, I can create my own factor, name it something, and then provide the instructions to the AI telling it how I want it to evaluate my performance. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Back on the report menu, next over are quotes. And this is where the AI takes a specific sentence or phrase or something that you said and provides that in a quote here, and then gives you its feedback on just that, just those words that you said. Rather than on the factors, it's the entire interview and how you did from each factor's perspective. In this case, it's a specific thing you said, and it provides feedback on just that. Finally, tips are recommendations or tips that you should apply to the next practice interview that you give inside Ovation. You can see this big Go Again button here at the bottom. The big idea in Ovation is you can practice as many times as you want. Our simulated audience members are not going to get bored or tired of listening to you. You can go over and over again. And these tips are things you should keep in mind just before you hit that Go Again button. And then finally, we have analytics. And here's where you're able to inspect some of the raw data about your performance. So how quickly you spoke and which filler words you used, how many filler words per minute, and others things. Whether you used pauses or not. In this case, I did not. Whether I avoided monotony, avoided repetition or stuttering, and in the case of word choice, the 10 most used words that I spoke during the interview. All right, so that's a full look at that. And then just to come back to the setup here, I want to show you what it looks like on the interviewer side. So if I click interviewer, I'm now on the other side of the table here. And in VR, you may need to click into that chair to sit in it. But in this mode now, I'm now going to go back into the setup screen here. And I still have the job title of VR software developer. But in this case, I'm going to have to generate, the AI is going to generate the persona of a person who's applying for the VR software developer job. And so I'm going to click on this, and it's going to generate somebody. In this case, this is Scarlett King, brings a blend of theoretical knowledge and practical experience, solid foundation in computer science, honed her skills, etc. So I could select this person, or I can continue searching for a different person. I'll just select Scarlett in this case. And just to point out here that you can also, in this new applicant additional context field at the bottom here, you can actually type in some information to give the AI a little more information on the type of persona that you want them to generate to be the applicant in this case. And so I could say, I want someone with 10 years of VR software development expertise. And then when you generate an AI applicant, they will have 10 years of expertise. All right, so I've done all that now, and let's go ahead and start the interview. I'm going to start it, and I'm going to speak first in this case. Hi, Scarlett. Thanks for coming in today. It's nice to meet you. Could you start by telling me why you got into the field of software development and what's exciting about virtual reality to you? So I send my response to Scarlett.
Hi, thanks for having me. I got into software development because I love solving problems and creating something impactful. Virtual reality excites me because it breaks traditional boundaries, offering immersive experiences that can revolutionize learning, making it more engaging and effective.
I agree. I'm curious, have you developed any software that was launched publicly in the past? Can you give me some information about that?
Yes, I developed an educational VR app called History Quest. It immerses users in historical events through interactive timelines and 3D environments. It was launched on multiple VR platforms, enhancing history education in several schools.
Okay, so I'm going to end that interview and discard it rather than saving it. So there you have it. That's the applicant side of it and the interviewer side of it. There's a lot of different options for you to customize the interview experience for what you're looking for. So thank you, and see you in the next video.